Now, this is the beginning of the journey. Gay, buddy!
Yeah, Jamie.
We had a challenge, and that challenge had been our means of communication. And today I think that problem is being solved.
I always said to those who care to listen that we are our worst enemies. I grew up in a home where my father could speak, would interact, but when he turned to us, it was our mother tongue. And doing it probably unconsciously, they didn't realize it was self-destructive.
One Didem from Calabar convened a meeting under the Ejagham Development Union. And one of the outcomes of that meeting was the push to have a standard Ejagham language orthography 85 years ago.
My unreserved gratitude goes to our forebears for giving us this unique Ejagham identity.
You know, I think about 4 years ago, we achieved a milestone, and the Ejagham tribe is now in our national identification card.
No wonder, therefore, that Professor Ansah became the chairperson and Reverend Father Dr. Felix Ejagham, the alternate chairperson of Ejagham Language Codification Committee, when it was inaugurated in 2020. Ladies and gentlemen, through their leadership and commitment, NERDC is here, and you are here today. That is some sort of leadership.
Learn to protect our linguistic backgrounds, because one day we might wake up to discover that we have lost our heritage totally.
Where does the Ejagham nation fit in? So, first is that we fight for our identity. And one way of fighting for identity is fighting for our language to survive. And that is what this whole thing is about.
Success of this orthography will depend on its adoption and use by the Ejagham speaking communities. The successful planning and execution of this Ejagham language orthography revision workshop is a testament to what we can achieve when we come together with a shared vision and purpose.
And I'm sure that whatever it will take for us to ensure that the language is taught in our schools, the Ministry of Education will hear it, will give us a listening ear, and will have it.
RELO, as we call it, is only the beginning, and indeed, we can begin to say goodbye to silo relationship and say welcome to integrated relationship across Ejagham nation.
All the poor people must support this team. At the end of the day, we come out successful. People come out and see what is going on, so that we know how we present ourselves outside to people also.
We pray for more of God's guidance and provisions as we develop our indigenous languages.
You have poisoned the river. Let the catch be great.
Revised Ejagham Language Orthography RELO workshop, which has as its theme Uniting Ejagham through the Revised Ejagham Language Orthography RELO. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I won't be working alone. I'm going to be working with a distinguished gentleman. He has my color, he's everybody black like I am, and there's no other person that is there. He could say, can we put our hands together for him? So please, we are going to set the ball rolling. Before we go on, may I please request that we please stand to your program and take the opening prayer.
We begin this exercise by committing people to the hands of God in the name of God, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Thank you, Father, for the day, and thank you for our lives. You created the world with the use of the word. let them be at the words. Since then, the place of the word is never underestimated in the community where men are. We thank you for the gathering today, so that we maintain our identity as people, Ejagham people, in Nigeria and in the international. Thank you for the safety you granted us here. Inspire us in all that we shall do, and at the end of it all, lead each and every one of us back home safely, and may our peace always be upon us, now and forever.
Thank you so much, Reverend Father Felix Ojo. And distinguished participants, you are graciously welcome to today's event. And please be advised that we have an online community that is joining this event virtually, and we trust that they are already logged in and they are following the activities. Without wasting much time now, we will move straight into the libation. And the libation will be performed by the paramount ruler of Calabar municipality, the Grand Patriarch of the Ejagham Nation, His Royal Majesty, the Niden, Basi Eta Itita the Third.
So please, I want us to do something very quick and something simple after the pouring of this libation, and you won't leave this hall without speaking in Ejagham language, even me. That's going to be our challenge now. And once you leave, you start speaking Ejagham language. So you're going to look at your neighbor, and just take a look at your neighbor's face with a smile. Greet your neighbor, good morning in Ejagham. So what did your neighbor say? What was the rest? Beautiful. Can we put our hands together for ourselves? Thank you so much.
Miss Ekumsa and I, we are the only ones permitted to speak English in the hall. Every other person, Ejagham language. Thank you so much. Please, I think we should rise. Can we please be on our feet to invite the music department to take the national anthem, listen, national anthem in Ejagham, then the unique song in English. Can we please be on our feet? Thank you so much.
Your Majesty, I observed that when the new old Nigerian anthem was being rendered, all the chiefs were singing it fluently, but the young people behind were struggling. We still struggle with the lyrics. This shows that what goes on comes back. And this is these anthems were rendered by the music department of the university. Please, Your Majesty, permit me to give the students a salutation. I am an alumnus of the University of Calabar, so I will say, greatest Nigerian students, ever conscious Nigerian students. By the way, the students are critical stakeholders of our organization and the government. Permit me to notify all participants that in the turn of this year, 2024, our president published statement in the quarterly report, which I'm going to highlight here. He said, you really do not have to look hard to find a bubble in which you, all participants of this event, can actively participate in taking advantage of your own uniqueness to promote the Ejagham heritage. And also, that we have all the stakeholders present at our event today really signifies the unity of Ejagham in motion. Please give EJT a round of applause. Now we will move straight up to setting the tone. When the dignitaries were introduced, some people called me and said, there's one person you've missed out. And I hope we have the person in the room, because this is the one person we've all been yearning to meet in person. And he is no other than the president of EJT. No other person, the one who is the change maker, the one who has identified his mission in this era and is pursuing it, set to achieve it, simply to document, digitalize, and disseminate Ejagham traditional practices and cultural expressions. Your Majesty, distinguished guests, dear participants, please help me welcome to the podium Engineer Christopher Moses Anom Ntuanom.
Please keep clapping till he gets to the podium. Keep clapping. He is a game changer. That's who he is.
Before I start the formalities, let me just recognize that when they sang the national anthem, the national anthem in English is louder than the national anthem in Ejagham. I noticed that, and I was just smiling. I was wondering, how come the national anthem in Ejagham, in an Ejagham event, is not louder? Now, this is the beginning of the journey. All protocols observed. You're welcome. Now, that is the general way that we know how to welcome our people here in events, the formal way of welcoming people. But in Ejagham, we have a different way of welcoming people. You could see how straightforward, that welcome, that salutation was. You go down the list to fulfill all righteousness. But in Ejagham, it is more complex than that. The thing is, if you come in a situation like this and you see your elders, tradition custodians, professionals, and you don't greet them in Ejagham, you will regret the day you didn't do that. Now, if you come into the same setup and you see Her Majesty, the chiefs, professionals sitting there, and you greet them, you salute them wrongly in Ejagham, even that is a problem. In other words, you have to know how to salute your people. So, I'm going to do my best to salute our people. However, I would crave the indulgence of Ndidem, our tradition custodians, that please forgive me today if I make any mistake, just for the sake of today. But the reason I know that you will forgive me is because of a song that is going to play right now. Please. Day of joy. Today is a day of happiness. Therefore, I believe if I make a mistake in saluting our chiefs, they will forgive me. Right. So, for friends of Ejagham who are here, we're going to show how we greet our people here. And so even if you don't learn anything today, you will learn how to greet people in Ejagham. It's our seniors. And if there are Ejagham people in the room here, I want you to help me. Ejagham Kubu, no. Ejagham Kubu, no. Ekumi. Ofa. Ejagham Kwa se ekumi. Ejagham Akankpa se ekumi. Ejagham Etong se ekumi. Ejagham Bako se ekumi. Ejagham Obang se ekumi. Ejagham Jemaya se ekumi. Ejagham Gunaya se ekumi. Ekumi. Ofa. Oye, ya, Mario. So that is how we salute people in Ejagham, and you could see how tedious that was. But I really enjoyed that. Ladies and gentlemen, I definitely have a lot to say about Ejagham tradition, and indeed Ejagham heritage. Ejagham heritage is not about singing and dancing, although it appears to be the rallying point, but there is much more. But as of today, I am time constrained, so I'm limited to how with this. I would like us to listen to a rendition captioned Jiggy Jiggy Najiga Eje. Revere your own. That is what that means.
At all times, we need to remind ourselves of what happened to the black people of Soma. The story is often told of a traveler who sojourned across the Sumerian area, and his mind could hold no more to his wonder. So he asked an old man sitting by the riverside, "What happened to the black people of Soma? For we are told that the aboriginal Sumerians were black people. What happened to them?" The traveler asked the old man. They lost their history, so they died, the old man responded. And it happened that the traveler was a Ejagham. So in lightning speed, he hurried to Mbakang, the route of his home. On arrival, he met the great dispersion where his brother and nephew were turned to atheism, and Ikangeta had gone in search of the people's paradise. Bako were equally subduing another part of the forest in search of their own, as Waseko, Etung, and Akamba, as they all came to be known by the traveler in his search for a great part of his people. As he sojourned, the people he left behind became Cameroon, and the ones he found had become Nigeria. A great confusion had emerged. English and French were circumcising the tongues of his people. Their fabric of brotherhood was relegated to the woods. They were subpoenaed to judgment in the church. Ntabi became Sibiri, as Ocham was mocked into desolation. Not only did they disperse, they were fast losing their true nature to foreign nurture. The traveler wept. He wept uncontrollably until the hands of sleep caressed his pulpit cheeks into a gathering of his phobias. Tiaiminyame was there, Mama Yi was there, the Tetakui was there. All them did them to Atuana Rumna, Tuana Kai were there. And all they agreed upon were inscribed on a slate of a Takbansi and sent across the Atlantic. So it happened that into the heart of a Moses was the slate cemented permanently. And so it was that the slate read boldly, "Go ye therefore and awaken your people from their slumber, for they have forsaken their identity and unity for too long. Moses was no Jonah, so he could hide not from his call, and eternity was born. But this was a different kind of Moses. He had not come to save his people, but to serve them. He was no Messiah, but a messenger. He was not a leader, but a ladder. He was a different voice crying at top upon hills to all Ejagham people, reminding them that self-identity lost is a self-dignity extinguished. He was not sent to speak alone, but to walk. Not alone yet still, but with the commitment of his people. And so it was written that those who hear his words should harden not their hearts. O ye Ejagham. And so it was that as the traveler woke to the reality of his dream, his lips were filled with laughter, for he saw a great light shining on the Ejagham nation. Alas, the people scattered all over the world were regaining their bond on the heels of their shared history. But they are now set forth to live out their true nature, tell their story in the best way possible, and preserve their uniqueness as a service to Mother Nature. This is what it means to be human, This is what it means to be African, This is what it means to be Nigerian or Cameroonian. This is what it means to be Ejagham, Jiggy jiggy nea jiggy jay. DC Ekumse.
That is what it means to be Ejagham. So my first question to you today is, what does it mean to you to be Ejagham? And I'll let you answer that question for yourselves. Ejagham Tradition Centre is a heritage organization whose mission is to host, promote, harness, update Ejagham traditional practices and cultural expressions in order to safeguard and preserve Ejagham tradition as a true legacy of Ejagham people. Our vision is to be a one-stop shop for information and data about, relating to, concerning Ejagham heritage. The strategy we have adopted to achieve this mission, vision, and objectives is to document, digitalize, and document Ejagham traditional heritage. The scope of this mission, vision, and objectives include, but are not limited to, oral tradition and literature, performance arts, knowledge and skills to produce traditional crafts, Ejagham sights and sounds, social practices and festive events, knowledge and practices of nature and the universe. It is obvious from the above that there is no lack of heritage topics to choose from, but we didn't just choose a topic, but we took the temperature of Ejagham people. We took the heritage temperature of Ejagham people to determine what heritage topic was of concern to most. So it will be a legitimate question if you asked, how did we determine that Ejagham language codification, whose product is the Revised Ejagham Language Orthography, was the product? Ladies and gentlemen, permit me to briefly tell the story of how we got here. As of December 2017, I had not spent Christmas at home in a long time. So really, I was missing home. In the course of a discussion with my wife and my son, somehow the discussion centered around tradition and how most tribes have generally lost grip of their traditions. To compensate for this homesickness, I said I would surf the internet to look for Ejagham traditional entertainment so that we could enjoy Ejagham culture even though we were far away from home. Of course, young people being who they are, my son went ahead of me and searched for Ejagham traditional activities on the internet. Unfortunately, the feedback I got from my son was negative. that it was not just traditional entertainment, but information about Ejagham was very sketchy on the internet. Sadly, ladies and gentlemen, it turned out that Ejagham tradition was among the very little you could not find on the internet nowadays. Later that day, while in the parking lot after grocery shopping, Njeno asked me, "Daddy, how come there wasn't much on Ejagham, but there was so much information about other Nigerian tribes on the internet?" Attempting to answer that question was very challenging. I was really heartbroken. Needless to say, I did not have a valid answer to that question. That was when it hit me that something had to be done. So a deep dive into getting the answer to that question quickly revealed to me that Ejagham heritage is at risk. It is at risk of erosion. It is at risk of dilution. It is at risk of adulteration. Ejagham heritage is at risk of misinterpretation, and in some cases, at the risk of extinction. So I explored for solution and reached the conclusion that to avoid my child and indeed future Ejagham generations having similar experience as my son, and to mitigate against the aforementioned risk that our heritage faces, there is need to document, digitalize, and disseminate Ejagham heritage. I also concluded that if it must have the desired scalable effect, it must be done collectively as a people, as Ejagham people. Ladies and gentlemen, my conviction was that documenting, digitalizing, and disseminating Ejagham heritage will enable us to tell our story ourselves in the best possible way. Up till now, people are telling our stories. Given my experience in corporate environment, I was convinced that to effect meaningful and sustainable change in the challenge of this magnitude, a special purpose vehicle was required. Hence, EJT was registered in the Corporate Affairs Commission of Nigeria. EJT website was developed immediately, and the scouting for members and interested stakeholders ensued. So amongst others, I approached one Dr. now Professor Ralph Ofiong of University of Calabar, who not only supported the idea of EJT but promised to rally Ejagham Academia Community of Practice to the idea. He did. And in 2019, the Ejagham Academia League was formed. Not long after, an inaugural Ejagham Academia League conference supported by EJT was organized. In that conference, Professor Stella Ansah spoke. In her speech, she lamented the risk of extinction of Ejagham language and offered to apply her professional skills to arrest the situation if required. But little did she know that EJT was watching and listening with intent. In that conference, EJT conducted a survey in which protecting Ejagham language from extinction was paramount to everybody. Prior to that conference, Professor Raphael Ofiong formed an Ejagham Academia League WhatsApp group in which, remember, I'm not in the academia, but when he formed the group, I was a fly in the wall of that Academia League WhatsApp group. So, in all their discussions, nothing else came close to the frustration that Ejagham language was going extant. And I borrowed that language from Dr. Mfon Branson. Subsequently, EJT organized the first ever Ejagham talk show in which Ndua Chief Edet Eko, Mr. Igbe Aruko, Ntufam Professor Sandy Ono, Reverend Father Dr. Felix Eja Ojong, Ntunka Grace Eyo Ita, and young DC Ekumse were panelists. In that event, Ndwa Chief Edet Ekpo said, and I quote, "Doing this will entail Ejagham working out a sort of central language which is understandable by all groups." Also, Reverend Father Dr. Felix Ejagham said, and I quote, "What will help us is language. How to coordinate the different versions of Ejagham. It will help, but we have to agree on one, certainly." Also, a result of a survey at that event showed that protecting Ejagham language from extinction was paramount. After 2 events, it became clear that the consensus among Ejagham people was that protecting Ejagham language from extinction was paramount. Also, note that in the course of all this, 3 champions or advocates of standard Ejagham language orthography had emerged. And they are Ndwa Chief Edet Ekpo, Professor Stella Ansah, and Reverend Father Dr. Felix Ejagham. Fortunately, one of them is a linguist. Wonder therefore that Professor Ansah became the chairperson, and Reverend Father Dr. Felix Ejagham, the alternate chairperson of Ejagham Language Codification Committee, when it was inaugurated in 2020. Ladies and gentlemen, through their leadership and commitment, NERDC is here, and you are here today. That is some sort of leadership. Ejagham tradition was painstakingly developed, protected, preserved, and transmitted from one generation to another by our forebears. My unreserved gratitude goes to our forebears for giving us this unique Ejagham identity. However, this identity is at risk in the 21st century. The rich tradition, customs, culture, and values of Ejagham people is threatened by modernization, urbanization, migration, especially of young people, technology, and natural hazards. Our artifacts and antiques are vandalized. There is a debilitating lack of standardization of Ejagham traditional practices and cultural expressions. A profound inability to harness Ejagham's tradition potentials to socio-economic advantage. To put it mildly, these are more the challenges that we face today. In reality, I consider it a crisis. The consequences of this crisis are far-reaching, very damaging, and are prevalent as we speak. The manifestation of these consequences directly impact our mother tongue, Ejagham cuisine, arts and craft, music, traditional rites, etc. But I am happy today that we are here to fix one of them permanently. People are already doing a lot to promote the Ejagham tradition anyway. And indeed, I agree. Ejagham people do organize festivals, marriages are still going on in Ejagham communities, coming of age ceremonies are still taking place. The academia community are still researching on Ejagham, I hope. Ejagham sons and daughters are still achieving individual milestones. Iconic Ejagham institutions like Mbe, Ekpa, Monenkim, Acheabo, Obasinjom, etc. are still there. Indeed, all these and more are happening at various Ejagham communities at different degrees. However, and please pay attention to this. However, the obvious challenge is these activities are happening in silos. They are localized, and most using the same methods of promoting Ejagham tradition that our forebears used. No wonder, even though the renowned Nsibidi communication system is wholly attributed to Ejagham, according to historians, we are only just here asking the executive secretary of NERDC, the governor of Cross River State, the commissioner of education, to formalize the teaching of Ejagham language in our learning institutions, only just now. I would like to draw your attention to the theme of the event today. Uniting Ejagham through Revised Ejagham Language Orthography. My dear Ejagham people, I cannot be clearer. Our unity as a people is our salvation. Now, evidently, by the fact that the entire Ejagham nation is fully represented here today, as you can see, the Revised Ejagham Language Orthography is already working. It is already working. Uniting Ejagham through the Revised Ejagham Orthography. But RELO, as we call it, is only the beginning, and indeed, we can begin to say goodbye to silo relationship and say welcome to integrated relationship across Ejagham nation. We need this level of unity going forward. I can't say that strongly enough. We need this level of unity going forward. If you think RELO, i.e. this event, is a big deal, all well and good. However, without any doubt, the implementation of RELO across Ejagham nation is even a much bigger deal. We will need the continued support of NERDC, the Executive Governor of Cross River State, the Commissioner of Education, and even more so, the support of Ejagham sons and daughters and their communities to effectively implement RELO. We have seen for yourself, you can see for yourself, that there is unity in diversity. All Ejagham clusters with a range of dialectical diversity are present here today to create a common orthography. As we are aware, Ejagham is straddled across two nations, Nigeria and Cameroon. Even in Cameroon, they are fully represented here today. As we look forward to NERDC approving RELO and subsequently giving us guidelines on the implementation of it, similar activities are expected to take place in the Cameroons. What I refer to as RELO Episode 2. In the same way Ejagham Cameroon is fully represented here today, I expect that come that time, Ejagham Nigeria will be fully represented in the Cameroons. Of course, RELO and the event today did not happen organically or by a mere coincidence. It happened because many people, Ejagham and friends of Ejagham, made commitments, took deliberate actions, sacrificed time, energy, and resources to make this a reality. To all those, I say thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thanks to everyone who made it to this event today, physically or virtually. As much as I would like to mention all those that supported EJT and indeed Ejagham people in this effort, you know that it's not practical. However, I would like to acknowledge some persons and organizations for their outstanding support, some of which were absolute showstoppers if we did not receive the support. And here they are. Professor Stella Ansah. Reverend Father Dr. Felix Ejagham, Professor Basi Okon, Professor Imelda Udo, Professor Bakume Nkongo, His Royal Highness Chief Moses Obenefunde, all encoded word list voice actors, including Lord Mayor Jacques, all the encoded word list validators, Iyamba Honorable Dr. Agbonduku Eret, Uban Ibu Kumonkom. Nta Ben Ntwe is outside there. Nta DC Ekumse. Bako Traditional Rulers Council. Ejagham Njemaya Development Association. Mbarakom Community. And this is very special. Non-Ejagham donors. And the last, but not the least, my dear wife, Ntiense. Whom I believe she's watching online at the moment. Ladies and gentlemen, having given you a glimpse of EJT in terms of who we are, what we stand for, the work we are doing, part of which is manifesting in front of your eyes today, the enormity of the work ahead, I am pleading with all Ejagham sons and daughters to join forces with EJT. Log on to our website at www.ejaghamtradition.org and register with EJT. Just like Professor Stella Ansah and Reverend Father Dr. Felix Ejagham Ojong, we need more champions. If we did not have a champion in Professor Ansah, a champion in Reverend Father Dr. Felix Ojong, and a champion in Dua Ederekbo, we would not be here today. Champion in the whole range of Ejagham activities. Ejagham heritage is a precious gift that one generation must pass to the next. So please come on board. Please come on board. And together, let's make sure that future Ejagham generations like you will have a reason to say proudly Ejagham. So ladies and gentlemen, long live Ejagham heritage. Long live Ejagham tradition. Long live EJT.
At this point, may I now invite the head of department, Linguistics and Nigerian Languages, Professor Stella Ansah, to please step forward and give us a welcome remark.
Ejagham, Ejagham, your family. Oh, man. Well, I will stand on the protocol he's established. I'm very sorry. I've always told people I'm 50-50. 50-50 because when I was invited to that event, I just called a friend and said, well, they're talking about Ejagham, let's go. My father used to speak it. And I went. I work a lot with the other 50. My other 50 is effort. And I'm very comfortable with that other 50. And I've always felt I wish I could also develop the other 50. But I guess I was offered that opportunity when I attended that event, and I volunteered to help my people, my father's people, my other 50-50 to see the best I can do as a language scholar. And I talked with my colleagues, first in Uyo, And I was told, I'm happy Professor Udo is here. We've come a long way, first as students together and then as colleagues. And then she told me, get a team in Calabar. And I got back to the department and got our chief phonologist. I said, we need a team. I want to salvage my language. And the department assisted in doing that. I know when people speak, and I know that's Ejagham, but unfortunately, I don't speak it. And I'd always said to those who care to listen that we are our worst enemies. I grew up in a home where my father could speak, would interact, but when he turned to us, it was our mother tongue. Because he was not always there. And unfortunately also, I come from an Ejagham cluster or group where when you listen to somebody refer to your mother's people as Asungayung, and you get to know the meaning of Asungayung, you won't be too happy with them. And so when they want to talk about the Asungayung, the best thing is to ensure that the children of the Asungayung don't understand what you are saying so that they will not get the message across to their mother. And doing it probably unconsciously, they didn't realize it was self-destructive, because not passing it on to the next generation meant that you were undoing yourself. And that is what has happened to Ikoransa, where I come from, Nkono. You realize that the people around there are more like effort than Kwo or Ejagham. And I look around, I look at Kasuk, all I hear is effort. I get as far as Ikoroman, all I hear is effort. I go to Edaba, effort. But when you go around Bikwo and Akam, but it's changing because I hear more of effort. I sat there, he was talking with somebody from his home, he was saying it in effort. And I said, this my father's people, they will never learn. But anyway, I want to welcome all of us to this event. I want to thank everybody for coming to help us rescue my other 50. And I want to thank my technical team. You don't have to be Ejagham or to come from any language group to speak the language. For those who grew up in Igbo land or Lagos or the north, you meet Hausa in school. Even here in Calabar, my son used to come home with assignments in his JS 1 to 3 on effort. I consult for WAEC. It's all about effort. And I said to them, effort is not the only language in Cross River State. It's the only one that is written. Those other ones are spoken in your homes. So we have come here today to ensure that with the help of NERDC, with the help of our consultants at LAN, and the Department of Linguistics and Nigerian Languages, we'll be able to reverse the downward trend of Ejagham in Cross River State. Fortunately, it's the only language that is spoken almost across the state. You find it in the 3 senatorial districts, and you find it in about 8 local government areas, but you don't find it in any institution. So, if by the grace of God, we're able to pull this through, then we'll ask all our politicians, sons and daughters, to ensure that we also push it into the school curriculum. And we also, as you go to learn Efuk, you learn Ejagham, and we ensure that it's institutionalized. And that way, it even makes politics easy. When you speak to me in a tongue I understand, I will understand you better, and there will be no need for bad governance, because you and I will be able to judge you in a language we both understand, and you'll be able to address the grassroots. And that's why we are here. We are doing this in the Department of Linguistics for Ejagham, but we'll also look at some other language groups have come to us, but for today, we are celebrating my other 50. And I'll be happy, just as I read my books written in my mother's language, that sooner than later, I will also be able to read books written in Ejagham. Thank you and welcome.